Hey, Scott Murrish here, and I'm with Bart Wilkins.
Part of the Vision team in Nebraska. We're excited about these meetings that we're going to be asking everybody to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can get excited about meetings, but we want to help you do that.
Yeah, really meetings are something that most people roll their eyes or they're thinking, oh my goodness, not another meeting. But we want to help you put good tools in your hands to have great meetings that you'll be able to walk away with some tremendous tools so that you can move forward. And gaining traction in moving your church forward is what we're all about.
Yep. So the goal here with our 2-year strategy is to help you have monthly meetings as a board that are actually going to produce incredible results. That's the entire goal, and that those meetings are actually fun. Whether you're meeting in person, whether you're meeting online, we want to encourage you to be consistent in having those meetings. And we have an agenda that will actually help you have phenomenal meetings. And it's that agenda that I wanted to just briefly walk through with you and highlight what are all these things that you see in the agenda. And you should have that agenda in some of the tools that we've shared with you already. So if you're a DAC pastor and you don't have it, check with your presbyter. If you're a presbyter and don't have it, check with us, and we'll make sure that we get that into your hands. But real quick, our whole point of this video is to highlight all of the distinct elements of the actual agenda. Right. All right, so Scott's an expert. He helps lead our vision team meetings, and we use this same agenda in those. In our church at Flatland, we also use this same agenda, and so we want to just make it super clear for you to do as well. So, good news is the first thing on the agenda. What do we mean when we say good news in this particular context?
Sure. Well, the structure of the meeting really is about building your relationship with the team that you're working with and sharing some wins and victories and moving forward. So good news is about 5 minutes at the front of the meeting where you're sharing a personal best, something that happened with your family that is something you love. I mean, if you're into a hobby or something, that's the type of stuff we're talking about, is just here's what I love, something great happened with my kids or my family, and it's good. The second part of good news is a ministry best. So personal best and ministry best. Take about 5 minutes just to break the ice of the meeting and get everybody in the frame of we're not just about the meeting, we're about relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. It's having fun, celebrating what God's doing both personally and in ministry.
Correct.
Super great. And everybody needs to share in that. Everybody that's in the meeting needs to share some good news. Then we come to the scorecard review, which makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
What is this scorecard review?
Well, a scorecard review, let me back up and say what a scorecard is.
Yes.
A scorecard is something that we put together, that you put together, to measure your traction. In other words, how many phone calls are you making to people who don't know Christ? Or how many connecting points, how many coffee meetings? There's a whole list of things that we put on a scorecard to, on a weekly basis, let us know, are we hitting the mark? Are we getting forward motion?
Yeah. Are we doing the things that are going to produce results or help us ensure that those results have a high chance of getting produced in the end?
Yeah, and over time, when you see that week after week and it turns into month after month, you can see how you're moving the needle.
Yeah.
And I love that we document it, we put it on a spreadsheet, or you will put it on a spreadsheet, and you'll be able to see that flow of what's been going on.
Right. So, for instance, really briefly, you might have what we call a lagging indicator of wanting to see, let's just say, 5 people get saved in the next 2 years. We don't have a ton of control about that. Salvation isn't something I just go make happen. But we still want to track that and celebrate that when it does. A leading indicator is a part of the scorecard that you do have control of. And so I might say I want to have 2 conversations a month with people that I know don't know Jesus yet. Well, I can control that. I can go set up meetings. I can go find people. And in the end, if I'm doing that consistently, the chances of seeing 5 salvations over the year go way up.
Yeah, it truly
does. Go way up. And so it's those leading indicators that you just want to track in this scorecard moment. Review. Did I have conversations this month? Did I do these things on the scorecard that I do have control of? And how is that impacting even those lagging indicators? Are we seeing those numbers start to rise as well?
Yeah, and if you're measuring something, you'll pay attention to it.
Absolutely. And you'll celebrate it when it happens.
Right.
And that's what makes this really fun.
Yep.
Okay, so rock reviews. We review the scorecard, but then we review rocks. What is a rock and how do we review it?
Well, a rock is something that we do within a 3-month time frame, 90 days, to grab a hold of something that is big, that's going to take pretty much 3 months to accomplish. So a rock review is you go through this and you will say, I'm on track, I'm off track, or I'm complete. And every time in the first couple of weeks, it's always going to be on track.
Yeah.
The further down you move, you really need to be very honest to say, I'm off track and here's why. And then that will become an issue that you'll discuss later.
Exactly.
And so the victory is within 3 months, there's really only 3 to 7 things that a person can carry that's a big ticket item. But I want to talk about making those rocks SMART. And SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, realistic. We're not going to reach every person in our city in 3 months.
Right.
But we want it to be realistic and time-based or timely. So a SMART rock is something that's SMART, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely.
And in your 2-year strategy, we have given you one of those rocks for every quarter, one of those SMART rocks. So for instance, the first quarter, we just want you to clarify your vision and values. Clarify your vision and values so that they are on paper. You can be sharing those with other people. And that's something that can take some time. We don't want you to just take a day to do that. Spend the 3 months working with your leadership in your team, the influencers in your church, making sure that everybody's on board with these vision and values. That's an example of what that would be.
Yeah.
And so that would be a rock for that particular quarter. You might have rocks that are specific to your church that you'll meet about with your board as well, and those are completely up to you, but we just want to make sure they're smart. Make sure they're smart.
Yeah.
And so you review the rock. I'm on track, off track. Here are some issues I'm dealing with. We'll talk about those later in the meeting. And so you just review it real quick, and then before you get into kind of the nitty-gritty stuff, church headlines. Church headlines.
Sure. So church headlines are something different than the good news at the beginning of the meeting. Church headlines are something that has taken place within your congregation. In other words, you had this many baptisms, or you had an outreach event, or it could be someone passed away.
Yeah, it's not always good news. It can be stuff that's, I suppose, bad news or disappointing news.
Yep.
Stuff that is newsworthy.
Sure, but it's a headline is something that we write down, we document, because it's a little bit of a history of what's been going on, and it also gives us some material if we want to create some social media posts or newsletter items, or an announcement to the congregation. Hey, we just saw this great thing happen.
Yeah,
and that's really a tremendous thing for us to write down.
Yeah, so church stuff that's newsworthy that maybe the board needs to know about, and like you said, maybe it needs to even go beyond the board meeting itself. Then we come to reviewing our to-do list. Every single meeting, you should walk away with a list of to-dos. If you don't, you haven't had a good meeting. You've just talked about stuff.
Yeah, you've just had a conversation.
Yeah.
And that's where, if you've read the book, Death by Meeting by Patrick Lencioni, or 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, it talks about meetings that go nowhere.
Yeah.
And if you don't develop to-dos, in addition to your rocks, the rocks are that 3-month thing, but a to-do is something that we can do in 7 to 14 days that will help us to get closer toward accomplishing our rocks.
Yeah, absolutely. And so every meeting, you're going to have a list of to-dos, and in this moment, you just review, did we do what we said we were going to do? We really need to do that. Then we come to the bulk of the meeting, and that's IDS. Identify, discuss, and solve issues. And so this is the big part of that meeting where we really just make sure that all of the details about each rock are getting discussed, that any issues with them are identified, and that solutions are made. So talk a little bit just about the solution part of this and solving the issues.
Sure. So you IDS, or identify, discuss, and solve issues. And issues are things that arise out of your rocks list or your big goals, the things that are taking place. And solutions mean that you're creating some to-dos.
Yes.
So in the solving of an issue, and it might be, we need to upgrade our church foyer, redecorate or just rearrange things.
Yeah.
You can create some to-dos and empower people. Don't take on a to-do yourself or every to-do yourself, Pastor, but begin empowering people because that will cause the growth. But a to-do is something that one person has their name behind.
Yeah.
And you write it down, and on that spreadsheet, you put that person's name behind it so that they can, within 7 to 14 days, accomplish that to-do. So when you review the to-do list in each of your meetings, you'll say done or not done.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not done, there's some grace that can be allowed. But if it doesn't get done over the course of time, we need to talk about it.
Yeah, that becomes another issue to solve.
Right.
And then you're pretty much done except for having a great wrap up to your meeting. And so let me just really briefly encourage you. Don't just end and walk away. There are 3 critical elements to the wrap up of your meeting. First, finalize that to-do list and read it out loud. Make sure everybody's really clear on what they're supposed to do. Determine if there are any cascading messages. Outside of the meeting, the people in the meeting, who needs to know what? And then last of all, rate the meeting. Rate the meeting. Our goal is that you have a level 10 meeting every single time. What is the rating system? What do we mean when we say rate the meeting? And then we're going to end with this.
Sure, and this is what makes this whole system work. This is the magic behind this, is you rate the meeting on a scale of 1 to 10. How effective was this meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Was it useful? Was it purposeful? And you need to be very honest, because the more honest you are with your rating, the better the meeting is going to be.
Yeah.
But the goal is to make it a level 10 every single time.
10 being, this was exceptional.
Yeah, this was great.
I'm fired up. We know what we're supposed to do. Everything's right in line with where we're going. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, and if you rate it 8 or less, then you need to add a reason.
Yeah,
what would have made it better?
Yeah, how can we make sure next time it's not a 7 or a 2 or a -5? So, awesome. Well, thank you for taking time to watch this video. Again, we want to encourage you to have these regular monthly meetings. We know that you cannot see huge success unless you are having meetings, but we don't want you to have boring, useless meetings. Make sure they're healthy, they're level 10s, and I believe God is going to do some amazing things in and through your church. We're praying for you. We love you. Rock and roll.
We'll see you soon.